Welcome to the Bulldog broadcast on the Field of 68 Media Network. Thanks for listening throughout this year. We're getting down to the home stretch. So with that, want to say a big thank you to our sponsors, mcgillivrayenvironmental, based in the North Idaho Handle, Dan Can Insurance, Wave Capital Lending, and Shoot 360 Spokane. So thanks a lot to each of those groups for your support. Looking forward to having you on board next year. But as I mentioned, getting down to the home stretch, the last little bit of the season, a time of the year where you probably had this week circled on your calendar as soon as the WCC schedule was released because you knew it was going to be a heck of a final week and a half or so of the season. With the way that the challenges that were presented by the WCC and the league. I wanted to record this the morning after the Washington State game simply because it was a little earlier in the week, and I wanted to kind of really put that focus and emphasis on the St. Mary's game. But when you look at last night's win over Washington State, Gonzaga just continues to trend and move in the right direction on both ends of the floor. We'll start on the offensive end of the floor first. I mean, they shot right around 50% from the field. They were solid from beyond the three-point line. A lot of that had to do with Nolan Hickman playing really well. Dusty Stromer came in off the bench. I believe he was 2 of 3 from beyond the three-point line. But it just shows you last night that Ryan Nemhart has an off game for probably the first time in about 2 months. Only had 7 points, only had 2 assists. I believe it was 2 turnovers. And I say he kind of has an off game, but it really was a game where, I think Washington State tried to take him out of it. They doubled pick and rolls. They were much more in tune to what he was doing with the ball to kind of cover him up and not give him angles and edges to be able to break down the defense and make plays for others. And I think that's a tremendous thing for Ryan to play against that defense and then not to force anything, because many times, as the momentum of a big season keeps going, you kind of feel this pressure at times like, hey, I got to make a play. I got to make a play. But he just let the game just be the game last night. He didn't kind of try to put his stamp, his mark on it because Nolan Hickman was playing well, because you had Braden Huff playing well off the bench. EK was his normal self. So I thought that was a tremendous approach to the game from Nemhart, and not when things aren't rolling maybe in the way they have been, trying to put your own stamp on it. So I thought that was great by him. But when you look at it, the 84-63 win for Gonzaga moves them 21-7 on the season, as well as 12-3 in West Coast Conference play, and still an outside chance for a WCC title. They're going to have to take care of business, and they're going to need some help. But the way the schedule looks, there's still a possibility. And that's one thing that Gonzaga, Coach Few, has always kind of prided themselves on, is those West Coast Conference titles, because that shows longevity throughout a stretch of weeks, and an accomplishment of something more than just a one-game deal. So that is something that is still there. But again, I thought Nolan Hickman played tremendous. 23 points on the night. Graham EK, 17 points, 13 rebounds. And those were hard fought because I thought they were really physical. Even though Washington State isn't the biggest team, I thought they were very physical. There have been, a number of coaches around the league that have said Washington State, as physical as St. Mary's is, and Washington State might be the most physical team, and not always in a good way. That's been told to me off record, not saying coaches' names, but just say that they're very physical, and you have to kind of hold your ground. You have to be smart with how you create angles and seals. But so I thought that was a great performance from Graham EK with 17 points, 13 rebounds. Michael Ajayi continues to do what everybody was hoping he would do at the start of the season. And, quite frankly, that's a tall ask to go from, a Pepperdine team that's traditionally been at the bottom of the league where you put up numbers, you have production, to then moving into a similar role at a place like Gonzaga where you're challenging for league titles. That's not easy. That's difficult. You kind of had to temper those expectations as a fan, and I think the challenges that Ajayi went through in the early third of the season are starting to pay off because he's starting to understand what his role is and where his opportunities come from and the punch that he can provide. Because I thought he was really good last night with 12 points. Braden Huff was great again off the bench, 11 points. I think he made his first 4 shots. Just what a luxury to have him coming off the bench, spelling EK. Just another big that can score down low, put foul pressure on. He was great. And then Dusty Stromer, I thought he only had 7 points, but I thought they were the first two threes he hit were huge, confidence wise. I saw because he's passed up some shots in recent weeks. He was sick, and it's taken him a little bit of time to kind of get back into to rhythm from my vantage point. But he was hunting shots in that first stretch that he got in the first half, and both of those were quick trigger threes, which is something that if you have a reputation as a shooter, you got to have quick trigger threes. You can't kind of wait until you're wide open with 8 feet of space, feet set. You got to go create opportunities and let it fly. And I thought that he did that. So, that all in all, that was a good offensive performance. Defense, though, I think continues to shine. They forced Washington State into 15 turnovers, 41% from the field, 9 of 25 from three. I just thought defensively they're continuing to hit their coverages. They're continuing to be active. They're continuing to be physical, and they're continuing to execute the game plan. Give them credit because they didn't make life easy on Washington State at all. Only 2 Cougars were in double figures on the night, and that was Lawan Watts, who had 19, and Isaiah Watts, who had 12. And when you look at it, Lawan Watts had 10 of those probably in about the first 7-8 minutes of the game. So after he hit a couple tough buckets early, they did a really good job taking him out of it. And Isaiah Watts, he's an outside shooter who found some space a couple times, but tremendous job on Washington State's leading scorer, Nate Calmes, 2 of 13 from the field. So he was well off his averages that night. But Gonzaga forced Washington State into a ton of tough contested shots, whether they were in the mid-range, whether they were closing out on three-point shooters, whether they were not giving angles to the rim on penetration. I thought, Washington State had as many bad misses being air balls or hard bricks that I've seen from a team this year against Gonzaga. But I think a lot of that had to do with Gonzaga's defensive pressure, not giving in, not giving up opportunities for them to get shots off cleanly. So tremendous night, but really the big focus, the big push, the big thought is St. Mary's. St. Mary's is on deck. St. Mary's has a 2-game lead in the league. They sit at 14-1, and Gonzaga sits at 12-3. This is the matchup we've all been waiting for, especially after dropping that first one down in Morago a few weeks back. You got to take care of this one, and then you also got to need help. But Gonzaga has to take care of this one, and then they have to finish off taking care of business themselves. So if you look at it, Gonzaga's last 3 games at home against St. Mary's, it'll be senior night. So Nolan Hickman, Ben Gregg, Graham EK, Michael Ajayi, Caliph Battle, all these guys, Ryan Nemhart, last time playing in McCarthy Athletic Center. Many times that can be a difficult.
Thank you to our presenting sponsors. If you have interest in joining the Bulldog Broadcast, the Field of 68 Media Network, for being a sponsor, don't hesitate to reach out to me, Dan Dickau at hotmail.com. Presenting sponsor, McGillivray Environmental can handle any of your construction needs, specializing in new construction, repairs, residential and commercial asphalt paving, excavation, environmental remediation, and hazardous waste. Reach out to Kip McGillivray at McGillivray Environmental today at 208-556-6384 for your free estimate.
The world's leading immersive basketball training experience that combines in-person skill development with digital gamification and virtual competition. At Shoot 360, you will train with our coaches, measure your skills with our proprietary technology, and track your progress on the Shoot 360 mobile app. Shoot 360 Spokane. Unlock your game.
Are you interested in investing in Pacific Northwest real estate? Are you an accredited investor, private investor, or want to be a private investor? Look up my friend Dan Can's website, investwithdancan.com. I've known Dan for over a decade, and he is honest, hardworking, truthful, and will do a great job in helping you navigate the world of real estate lending and investing. Check him out today, investwithdancan.com. Looking for a reliable local insurance agency that cares about you? Look no further than Dan Can Insurance Agency. They are local, committed to providing personalized coverage for home, auto, and life insurance. No more guessing. Their 8 friendly agents take the time to understand your needs and give you the best rates around. Call Dan Can Insurance today at 509-328-1422 or visit them at dancanspokane.com, because at Dan Can Insurance Agency, your family, not just a policy. Also, Dan Can has been an agent of mine for years. I highly recommend him and his valuable team. Ask of a young player. I look back to the game Gonzaga was undefeated in 2017. They were undefeated, and then they lost on senior night to BYU, which would have allowed them the rarity of being undefeated going into the postseason with the WCC tournament. They just didn't play themselves that night. But Gonzaga has St. Mary's at home. Then they go on the road to Santa Clara to try to revenge that home loss. And then they are at San Francisco, but it's not in War Memorial on USF's campus. It's actually at the Chase Center, the home of the Mavericks. So that actually is a great sign for Gonzaga, because the War Memorial is becoming a tough place to play. San Francisco hasn't lost a single game at home there this year. They even beat St. Mary's at home to hand St. Mary's their only league loss this year. So that's the rest of Gonzaga's schedule. For St. Mary's, clearly they come to Spokane, and then they're at LMU, which has some surprising wins this year, and they played really well, especially at home. And then they've got Oregon State on March 1st to finish it off. So that's going to be really interesting to see. Can LMU come up with an upset? Can Oregon State come up with an upset if Gonzaga wins this meeting against St. Mary's? But Gonzaga's 10 in the net. They're clearly in the NCAA tournament, barring any weird collapses this last week. It would be monumental if a team sitting at 10 in the net didn't make the tournament. So with all these, bracketologists that are looking at it saying Gonzaga is a 9 or a 10 seed, I don't get it, because how can you be ranked 10th in the net in the analytics that count, 10th in KenPom, and then just get a 10 seed, which essentially means you're sneaking into the tournament. If you're a 10 or 11 seed, essentially that's what it means. I think the bracketologists are very undervaluing Gonzaga right now. But it's one of those things where you have to control task at hand. You have to take care of task at hand, and you have to just take care of business. And I think Gonzaga has shown that they are focused in these last couple of weeks, and they're getting better. But in regards to looking at keys for the St. Mary's game, you got to control tempo. I think in that game down in St. Mary's in Morago, because St. Mary's got off to a solid start, they were able to control the tempo. Game was at their pace. When the game's at their pace, um, you know, it, they become so hard to score on. And so you have to try to find ways to get that game going in the tempo of your favor. So you got to get stops early. So this is from Gonzaga's perspective. You got to get stops early. You got to get that ball out in transition, and you got to try to find easy opportunities. And whether it's throw aheads, whether it's drag screens, pick and roll, whether it's duck ins, or it's driving kick into threes, you got to find a way to get that ball up the floor early. If you don't have anything you like, that now allows you time to get into the offense that you want, whether it's your continuity ball screen, whether it's your double away action, your high-low actions. It gives you time to do that, because if you walk the ball up against St. Mary's and say you try to enter offense with 18 seconds on the clock, they jam things up so much that it becomes difficult to dribble into your entry areas, to get open on the wing, to throw it to the wing, and then to cut to move into the next spacing to set up your screen or set up your angle of a cut. And so if you can just get out in transition, that allows you to flow into your offense much more freely. So I think that's a key to that. But another big part of that, like I said, you got to rebound to be able to do that. You can't take the ball out of the net, take it out of bounds, and then be able to get and play in that way offensively. So that's something that leads you to say, because you got to rebound, you got to make sure you keep St. Mary's off the offensive glass. They've been hovering right around that best offensive rebounding team in the country throughout the season. And there's a number of reasons why. One, they teach it, but two, they got guys that they're wired to do just that. Mitchell Saxon averages over 4 offensive rebounds per game. He's led the country in offensive rebounds for a large stretch of the season. Luke Barrett is a guy that flies in from the wing and does that. They're big off the bench. Harry Wessels is starting to do those kind of things. And he's had some tremendous games and moments lately, and he had it against Gonzaga down in Moraga. And so you got to keep him off the glass. Morauskas is another one that flies in. And then you also, I think you have to be very diligent in how you guard pick and rolls. Marshallonis is such a good player. He plays the game at his pace, his speed. He sees it, he makes reads, he makes plays. You can't allow him to fully dictate the game, both scoring and passing it, because he's now this year shown the ability to dictate the game both ways. When you look at the game that they lost to San Francisco, Ryan Beasley was able to really make life difficult in the second half for Marshallonis, and that resulted in a San Francisco win. So those are a couple things. You got to really be aware of Morauskas. He sprained his ankle about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, so he's not fully up to speed, although he's playing. He's been limited, but he's a tremendous scorer. You got to limit him. He's got more than double-figure double-doubles on the season, so you got to keep him off the glass, but you also got to limit his scoring opportunities. And then you have to take away, I think, one of the two guards, Jordan Ross from Mikey Lewis, and not allow either one of them to get going. I thought both of them played well against Gonzaga. I think Mikey Lewis is the bigger X factor, simply for the fact that as a freshman, he's earned minutes under Randy Bennett, which can be difficult to do. And he's done it because of his offense. And his defense has improved throughout the year, but his offense has been so good, it's got him on the court. He hit big shots against Gonzaga in that first meeting in Moraga. So he's a really good player. You've got to be aware of him at all times because he's got a quick trigger. And Jordan Ross, is a lefty. Is a player who can. He's not gonna. I don't think he's gonna give you 20, but he'll sneak in there and he'll give you 12 and 4 assists and 3 steals. A good player. So those are things to look out for with St. Mary's. For Gonzaga, I know I touched on a couple big things: get out in transition, be good on the glass. But I really want to see Nolan Hickman and Dusty Stromer shoot the ball the way they did in Pullman against Washington State. We've obviously seeing the capability of those two as shooters as well as Caliph Battle. But now you want to see it in a big game. Um, if you're going to make another run in the NCAA tournament, which I think Gonzaga has every opportunity and ability to do, you got to perform against the highest level teams. And St. Mary's, to me, is a high level team. And so you want to make sure that you get success. You want to build on that success against the good teams down the stretch of your season. So I want to see Nolan Hickman continue to knock down shots, take point guard responsibilities, which I thought he did last night against Washington State, because Nembhard was the key focal point of Washington State's defense. So thought he showed that. And then I want to see Stromer come in with an aggressive mindset to hunt shots. And then with Battle, as I mentioned, the up and downness throughout the season. Just continue to be aggressive, and then realize and find out if you're on that day, really start hunting shots. If it doesn't feel great, which unfortunately that's the case sometimes with many shooters, figure out how to impact the game. And I thought, even though he didn't shoot it great against Washington State last night, he did still find a way to impact the game at a couple different moments. So good stuff going on in Spokane for Gonzaga fans. Again, moving in the right direction, 10 in the net, 10 in Ken Palm. You're moving closer and closer to Selection Sunday, but you still got some business to do. You're against St. Mary's at home, at Santa Clara, at San Francisco. So the best time of year is right around the corner, but you took care of business last night in Pullman in a big way. So thanks for listening to the Field of 68 Media Networks Bulldog Broadcast.